Julian Foster's here. This one is called VVV. It's my theory, Universal Finest DC.
God damn, that was destructive as hell, right? Bloodstorm. So, Death Metal Podcast coming at you live and loud, like metal. I got a special guest tonight. We set this up pretty fast because we don't care. It's all about the metal and not about, whatever, dressing up. So check it out. My special guest tonight. I've known him for over 30 years, which is dope. It's cool when you can have a friendship with somebody for so long, or any friend for so long that it's like 30 years later, you've known them longer than you known your own children. Anyway, so what's up, everybody? This is Death Metal Podcast coming at you. We are on Instagram if you want to whatever on there, and then all this baloney junk that I have to put on here just to make people come here. So here is my special guest. In Roy Fox fashion, I basically just wing this as usual. But here we go. My man, the man of the hour, Mezzadurus.
What's
there
up,
he
Mr.
is.
How you doing, buddy?
How you
Good
doing,
to
bro?
see you. As always.
Love the shirt. Love the shirt.
Oh, well, love the band, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Acid.
For me, they, you know, as you know, Acid was one of my key influences for me doing Dennis Hit, and I had that in my head a long, long time ago because I love that band so much. That sound that Kate has in her voice with heavy metal music was just, it was really, it's inspiring because it gets you know, the older you get and the more we push along and the more things come and go, you know, you always roll back in your catalog and see what maybe you missed and maybe what things didn't stand out when you were 20, you know, 25, and then you evaluate because for me, I think, you know, just rock in general has been horrible, absolutely horrible for over 25 years. Rock and roll has been horrible. So, you know, years go by, more and more bands come out. We all, you know, that's just the way things are because it's a very good high motivation tool, you know, heavy metal music is. And Lemmy said it best, it's the ultimate successor to rock and roll, and it really is.
Yeah.
But you know, all that is just, you know, there's something that I think was really overlooked a long time ago with women's role in metal. It really kind of is, and in rock music in general too. Moreover, because their voice is just different than a man's. That if you put it behind music, if it's really good music, if it's written well and played well, it actually, in a lot of cases, sounds better than a man's voice on top of things. My opinion. I think Acid is one of those bands, and that's really the thing. They were the first driving force that said, "Yeah, I would love to work with a woman that could just sing like that and just play like, you know, like a Saxon."
You champion women's rock. I notice a lot, which I think is cool, man. You know, you really champion
a girls' school too. Yeah.
Stay with Acid though. I got a question too, just out of curiosity. Yeah. Like, I didn't hear about Acid till I was probably like 25, maybe. Did you hear about Acid like when they came out, like that far back, or?
Saw them in magazines only, because remember back in the day, all we had was like Cream Metal. Remember that? And like, what's the other one? Cream Metal, Metal Mania. There was Metal Hammer. There was one called Metalation. All that stuff, and you know, you would always see those record ads. Most of the time, it was on when Megaforce first came out, and they did an ad. I think it was in Metal Maniacs, or it was in Cream Metal. It was one-page ad, black and white, and it had like everything from Exciter and Anthrax, Manowar. It had all that stuff on there, right? And I remember on the other side of the page, there was a list from A to Z of all these imported metal bands that you can order from an order form, and it went to England. Right at the top, Acid was the first band right at the top. And I'm like, Acid, Maniac, Engine Beast, you know, and then then you see an Accept and Alcatraz and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It just goes down after the quarter.
And you know what's cool? Those lists and those photos, it's like back then, we would buy the magazine just for that one paper in there, right?
Exactly right. And I did it, man. And because it was, you know, there was no radio promoting that stuff, at least not in my area, not Philadelphia, man.
Not in my area either.
It's whatever the record store had. That's all you got, man, and that was it. There was no radio push. I remember hearing in '82 on 94 YSP down here in Philly that the Beast on the Road tour for Iron Maiden. I remember that was like I remember that one being like the kind of heavy metal, like big radio advertisement.
Right.
You know, and the Judas Priest and all that stuff was already out. I specifically remember them plugging that tour in '82, at least in Philly back then. And you know, that's really all I got to hear. You always heard Scorpions.
It was like Judas Priest tour that they put on regular television when there was only 7 channels, right? It was like a commercial for a Judas Priest tour. Is that what it was? Because I think I remember that. I remember on the radio they were talking. Yeah, I think it was a whole bunch of things in session, and that was part of the commercial. Was announcing the Beast on the Road tour in '82. But you know, like I said, I mean, in our age, I mean, I'm 50 now, so everything was whatever your record store had and whatever you found in the magazine, and then tape trade. When I got in high school, it became tape trade, and you're a big one on that too. And that's just the way things went. There was a very big adventure into talking to your friends in your neighborhood or at school about the bands that you're reading about
So you critique, you discuss, and you think, what is that? You think that sounds like? You can always bank most of the time that the logo and the artwork went with the music, and you almost never failed. You can't do that anymore. You absolutely can't do that shit. That's out the window a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah, you tried. It was like that was the deciding factor, because it's not like the record store was gonna like let you play the record. It wasn't even like there was no turntable in the record store.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the one place we had, the big one where I got all my records was Wall to Wall Sound and Video. Remember them?
Nah.
Yeah, that's where.
They're from Philly. Are they from Philly?
They were Wall to Wall Sound and Video was our chain in the Philadelphia area, and that's where you went and rented all your videotapes, and you got your music and video, all that VHS stuff. And they always had the record section. And back then, that was it. That was the golden throne of getting your music, man. And that's where I found Voivod all on my own. Not a clue. Never heard of them. Never even saw them advertised in a magazine. I saw the cassette of it there. Because back then, all I could really afford were the cassettes, because the records were too much money back in the day. So the tapes were like $2 cheaper.
Yeah, or you could get 2 cassettes instead of 1 record, right?
Right. It's like, do I want 1 record or I want 3 tapes? I'll take the 3 tapes because I have a boom box I can walk around the neighborhood with.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way. That's just the way. Socially, that's the way things were back then. You walked in with your friends. Somebody usually had the best radio, and everybody had to chip in for batteries because the tapes just wore the shit out of the batteries.
Or if somebody had like a dual cassette player, then you could be like, all right, here's mine, and now here's yours.
Everybody went out and bought the blank tapes.
Those rolls of blank tapes that had no boxes, or like orange. And you could buy like 4 of them for $1 or something.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, it's a sign of the times, I guess. I mean, I'm sure when the younger generation, the guys and girls that are in their 20s now, when they get around our age, I'm quite sure probably things are going to be different for them too. I'm guessing. I don't know. Everything's digital, so I don't know how much far off the cusp you can go, except putting some kind of virtual glasses and you're listening to the music and you're sitting there in the studio with them while they're playing it, or some kind of holographic thing. Who knows what they'll come up with by then? But the adventure of things, it was such a thrill to discover new music back then. And the 80s were so rich with that stuff, thankfully, because of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, most of the record exec type of guys, I tend to think it seemed like they were the guys, they were the cigar chomping, businessmen guys that were like, who knows if it'll do good or not? Just put it out there and see what happens. Those guys were better for the music industry than what's going on today.
I mean, they had those guys, but you had those guys, and then you had your Brian Slagulls, who was really not too far off in age from us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then also you had, yeah, exactly, Johnny Z. And he's not too far in age off of us. You know what I mean? But obviously those guys were the young bucks of the Metallica, you know what I mean?
Yes, they were. We have a lot to owe for that stuff, man.
Oh,
and moreover, probably because of Europe too, of course, because of Judas Priest and Venom and Accept and all that, and Saxon, all that stuff was.
And you said it too. It wasn't just their rock. It wasn't just their records. It was their lists and their photos and stuff that we saw in magazines that we might not even get the record at that time. But we saw the band's name. We're like, oh, look, there's a band called Assassin,
Yep.
But I don't know who they are, but it says, or maybe it said they were from Germany. And you were just like,
right.
All right. So they're on my radar now. And if you were like me, I used to have a little paper or notebook or whatever. And I'd be like, Assassin, Germany,
Yep. I went around with that list I was talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I try to get.
Let me try to collect those. Exactly. It's like, so I would bring those lists too. You know what I mean? And be like, do you have any of these bands? And a lot of the times the record store guy would look at the list and be like, like completely like,
Yeah, they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. Take a look over there. It's alphabetical order, kid. Go over there,
or they just said, like, those are imports. We don't carry those, So there was only like certain spots that carried more expensive imports. They were just carrying Capitol Records. They weren't carrying like Neat Records. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the American way, isn't it? It's got to be some sort of way.
It just takes time. Things take time. It's just like I watched the evolution of the whole metal scene, and then I watched the whole evolution of like in a weird way. I watched the whole evolution of the earache scene. Then I watched the whole evolution of the nuclear blast scene. Watched the whole evolution of the Century Media thing, Relapse. You know what I mean? Just like kind of one after another, and those were all small independent labels at one time, just putting out smaller releases at that time.
Yeah.
But now those same releases, it's just like, well, at that time, Combat was putting out what SOD, like.
Yeah.
But now it's like, whoa, dude, come on.
It was that was the groundbreaking metal stuff.
Yeah.
They just took Venom and Saxon and all that stuff and just made it even more,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got a story, everybody's got a background of what they went through and stuff. I mean, it's I always find it. I do. I'm a social butterfly, as you know me. I'm like almost 30 years now. So you discuss, you critique. That's all for me. That's always been the thrill of it, is your camaraderie with people. At school and around I had a rock and roll neighborhood. I had a really cool neighborhood when I was growing up as a kid in the 70s in Kensington. It was middle class, rock and roll neighborhood. It was very relatable. And
if you go on YouTube now and type up Kensington, you can check out the neighborhood now.
That's my old neighborhood.
Which looks like zombie Holocaust, basically.
It is. It really fucking is, man. And it's funny. I'm looking, I'm like, damn, it wasn't like that. I was a kid. It was thriving with life. I mean, There was like pretzel vendors on the corner. Kids had, were selling stuff right outside.
Was there any record stores on Kensington Ave?
There
Just out of curiosity.
There was. There was a place called Record Spot that I went to, and that's where I got. What did I get there? That's where I got Quiet Riot Mental Health when that came out. I got that there. What else did I get there? I got my Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance cassette there. Most of I got my Led Zeppelin records from that guy because he had everything on cassette. And like I said, we used to walk around with a radio, so he wanted everything on cassette. And this guy had a lot of those cassettes. So I used to get most of my rock tapes from him. At one time I had all, as the more you play it, it just wears out. So most of it was wall-to-wall sound and video. It was the imported record section. And like you said, you go with your list. I went with my magazine piece of paper. I tore out there and went with that list, going down alphabetical order. My father was really cool about that because he would be looking at the videotape stuff. It was a really big chain store back in the day. So I would be in the record section going through stuff as fast as I could to try to find things on that list and burn through. And then the second thing I did, and I'm sure you relate to this, is when you get those records, you take them home, reading it, because we all do that. You're looking at that thanks list, and you're reading the bands that are in that thanks list. And that is the second surefire way for me to find out.
Yeah. To find out about the next set of bands. I got to look for this now. This looks great, because that is how I found, I found a lot of demo band stuff. I found, most of it was the hardcore stuff. I remember reading a lot of the crossover hardcore bands were thanked in almost everything. You remember that? It was always Corrosion Conformity you would see, what?
And
there was
Broken
a way
Bones
that I
and
found
GBH. You'd see all that, Exploited.
There was a way that I found
Whiplash
out.
is where I used to see a lot of. I used to see Whiplash in a lot of thanks lists.
There was a way that I found out a lot bands like Necrophagia, Insecticide, etc. And there was this guy that used to make these covers for them, right? And I don't know if he's a Philly native, but I think he might be. And I invited him on the podcast. And it's Drew Elliott.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
The
hear
microphone went out.
No, you look great, brother.
The microphone.
Oh, okay.
No, that's the old one. That's the old one, Chris.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you. Your microphone went out, Chris. Can you hear us? What's up, Drew? How's it going, brother?
It's going good. How are you?
I'm good, brother. I was just saying too, with the earliest days of some of the darkest metal and death metal, thrash, and hardcore, you had an impact in a weird way because you made some of those metal-esque covers, and there was those comp LPs like the New Renaissance or like, you know, could you talk to us a little bit about that, bro? Because in a weird way, I have to thank you.
I heard you ask if I was a Philadelphia native. I'm from Delaware County.
Yeah.
That's where I grew up.
Okay.
So I heard you guys talk. My record store was Listening Booth in the Granite Run Mall. And it had a really good section. I have memories of records that I passed on that I go, ugh, why did I pass on that? Because you had no idea. You know, like the Metal from Other comps were there. And that cover was kind of cheesy, you know, the night. Remember the night on it? And I was like, there
was a night on one thing? Yeah. I know.
Yeah. I passed.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes those were actually a little alluring because if you're like 10 years old, you know what I mean? Like a knight on the cover, you know, with a big sword is kind of like, I want to check this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he was kind of.
It's just, I think it depends on your age in a way, right?
Yeah, it depends on your age and it depends on how much lunch money you saved up. Because, you know, you save up $7.99 and that's all you had. You're like, all right, this better be good, you know. So
yeah, but, Chris, if you can hear me, log out and log back in, brother. Okay.
So you were asking about New Renaissance Records.
Yeah, and so you made a bunch of covers for New Renaissance Records back in the day, and in a way, like, how did you connect with them, or you know what was like? How did that come together?
When I still lived in Delaware County, I was trying to contact metal labels. I talked to Johnny Z on the phone. I wrote to Brian Slagle, and I got some nibbles. You know, like I talked to Johnny Z, and you know, we were talking about maybe doing something, but you know, I was like,
if I don't mind, how approximately how old were you at the time doing that?
Like
young, you were like 18.
Yeah, I was like, I was like 19, 20. You know.
Okay.
And then when I graduated from art school, I decided to move to Los Angeles with a friend of mine.
Okay.
So I moved to Los Angeles, showed up on Brian Slagle's Metal Blades doorstep, and they were nice. They didn't like, you know, say get the hell out of here. they let me in. Brian was super, super cool. He like gave me a bunch of records, and then he asked me if I would do some stuff for him, and I did. The first thing I did was really funny. The first thing I ever did was the you know that record Predator with the really bad cover, the photograph of the guy on the beach?
Yeah, sure.
I did that logo. That's the first thing I ever did. And
wow, dude. And they consider that one of the weirdest metal record covers of all time, you know?
Yeah.
I think we can hear you, Chris,
really
now.
bad. I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, I can hear you guys now. Sorry about the technical issue. I had that with Francisco before, too. All of a sudden, just boop, no sound. So if it happens again...
Get off Wi-Fi. But so basically on that Predator record, right? You drew the logo from them. You never heard them. You didn't see. Did you see the cover?
I had no idea. I had no idea. Okay. I just knew the name. They gave me the name. Yeah. That was it.
How did you feel after you saw the cover? Were you like, what the fuck?
I mean, what are you gonna say? What can you say? You know, like I've never even heard that record. You know?
No, I haven't either. I just know the cover.
Me neither. Saw it a dozen times, never got it. It's good to see you, Drew.
Good to see you. Yeah. So so anyway, so then the only other thing I did for them was they had that punk rock imprint Death record. And I did their first compilation that we had like Dr. No on it, Corrosion of Conformity, and it's a really great comp, actually.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I mean, some of those things were like...
It's a really good one. My cover's okay, but the comp is great. And then
you did the cover. You did the cover, right? I don't want to break you up here, but you did the cover, right, of the first thing that, in my own let's call it death metal or black metal opinion.
Yeah.
You did the cover on the thing where I actually took and went to the back, looked at the credits, the band's address was on there, and then I wrote to the band. So that was Ultimate Revenge 2, Necrophagia.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that and I heard the band, I saw the cover, and then I listened to the band, and then it was the first time I had ever written a band a letter, basically. You know what I mean? Because getting a did that. Yeah, that was, dude.
That was cool that you put the address.
That was like life changing for me, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got definitely, bro. I mean, back up a little bit, Chris.
That was a big influence, Drew. When you did this, I wanted this in the worst way all over my wall in my room back home, old house. Me and all my friends thought this was one of the greatest covers, and it actually influenced me visually for Goreaphobia, and that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of... You know what's bugged out?
Really
Drew, I don't want to kiss your ass too hard, but I just want to let you know that, you made the covers of, a whole shitload of records and things that really meant a lot to me.
You have a very unique style.
Not just then, but now, too. Not now. So, I mean... Were they just moving through your own personal scrapbook, or were you making those one after one after one after one back then?
I was doing them I was doing a cover a month for Anne, pretty much.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, I don't know what happened. My memory is foggy on what happened with Metal Blade. Nothing bad happened, but I just couldn't really get the juices going, a relationship with that label, so anyway, so then I think I found Anne's information in the LA Weekly, the city paper of Philly, and I just wrote to her and ended up her apartment was in the valley, not far from where I was living, and so I just rode my bike over there and we met, and we got along really good, and she was just yeah, well, let's do this. I had some artwork already, the first thrash metal attack that has that weird skeleton on it with the cigarette.
Right. Yeah. I had that on cassette, dude.
Yeah, I had that already. And she's like, "Oh, we'll use it for this. That. Well, that's fine. That'll work." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So she would just tell me the name of band. What's that?
I said that artwork actually fit that compilation cover. It really did.
Yeah.
That friggin' compilation was amazing, dude.
That turned me on. Every band on there. It's why I wrote the hell with you after I heard that.
Oh, see, there's another one too. Chris too.
I wrote the hell with you after I heard that album.
Yeah, because
War God, I wrote to them. I wrote to Thrash. I wrote to all those bands on there. Every one of those bands I wrote to on there. Those compilations, all of them. Remember when me and you were hanging out with Ann when they played the Hellion played a couple years ago in Philly? Me and you, and you were there, and I think you were with your missus, and I was there, and there was all these people crowding around and talking. I was like, I just want to talk to her and tell her how much her label and everything about it really had a high influence on what I did with Goreaphobia. I mean, I know there's been a lot of stories over the years of bad business ends and things like that. And then when I was there with her, she was looking. I wanted to approach her. I said, Ann, and she says, I don't know if you heard her, but she said, "Don't I know you?" And I said, "No, you don't." I said, "But I wish I knew you, and it was old enough back in the day that I could talk And then she went, okay, so what's up? And I was like, I just want to tell you what you did with the Renaissance Records was highly influential on what I did with my band Goreaphobia. It was highly influential. It impacted not just me, but my friends in the neighborhood. It helped us generate more of a scene in Philadelphia based on a lot of the records that you put out. And I formed relationships based out of your record label, you know, and there's something to be said about the social demographic of having something like that. And she's like,
too, in a weird way. I formed relationships with other bands or people, or they had passed me on some other info, like, hey, write to my friend Zine or something, you know? So it's weird how it just cascaded, like,
she thought I was going to blast her. She thought I was from a band and I was going to blast her. And, you know,
give me my royalties.
I don't know, man. I told her, I said, I love you.
Right. Yeah. She's always afraid every city.
I just told her, I said,
royalty.
Hey, whatever. She became a lawyer later in life, so I'm sure she's doing well. She probably collected royalties.
I told her. This is what I said to her too. I don't know if you remember this, Drew, but when I was here, I said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The floor is yours, Drew.
Oh no, just when we were hanging out with her, they're talking to her. I just say this because you were standing there. I don't know if you heard everything I said to her because I just bip, 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 bip. So, but I was just telling her that I thought she was geographically in the wrong place for what she did. I said, if you were in New York City, you'd have been like the heavy metal Joan Jett probably in the 80s. I said, you were in the wrong spot to do what you were doing with Hellion because I thought the music was great.
Yeah.
And she didn't do the dye your hair blonde with the fake boobs, all that dumb junk. She didn't need it. She had the voice, I think.
I was not even familiar with her band at all, just to be honest. I didn't even put together. She put her band on some of the comps, right?
I did too. I think she was very underrated, I think. But that's me, you know. I hear a lot and so much potential in her voice.
Yeah.
So I just always thought if she was in New York City or just on the East Coast, but anywhere from DC to Boston, she probably would have done. That's what I said to her. She just laughed because you might be right. I said, you and Betsy Bitch all should have been on the East Coast.
So bugged out, dude.
Yeah. I mean, well, Ann as a person is interesting, like, because, you know, she was pretty straight up heavy metal, you know, like that was her band. But then with the label, maybe saying that she lucked into it is the wrong phrase to use, but she was there at the right time when this underground was starting.
Yeah, it's like it struck.
The gumption
to put underground
and on records, get it out there, and she was cranking those comps out there, and it really kind of started a little.
They were great.
It set the seeds for a lot of stuff.
They were the greatest.
And
it set the seeds. Just me,
I'm very surprised that I'm surprised, because I feel like there was a time when that stuff was forgotten a little bit, and now it's just kind of in the last 10 years really come back, and people are giving it the props that probably deserves.
Are you talking about the comps being forgotten?
The bands.
Yeah. The bands? I mean, there's
I love Sam Hain.
A lot of those bands, there's a lot of great bands on those things.
Oh yeah, Sam Hain.
It really was a good time.
Des
Exalt. They changed it. Like
I said, she gave me steady work, and I like that.
Hey, Chris. If it wasn't for her comp, you might have never heard Necrophagia, or.
That's true, because the Satan's Revenge was big on that. But I remember I think it was Metal Maniacs, when they used to do those little black and white in the middle of those magazines. Remember they used to do scene reports? You remember that?
Yeah.
But the one issue had Texas, and it had a report on Necrophagia. I remember that article. And I was like, wow, this is, the picture, they were all dark. It was And I just like the way that the article was written about them had me very curious about them, and initially thought of Possessed. The way that the article, the first thing that came to my mind was like, well, they must be like Possessed. That's the first thing the impression I got reading that article. So I was interested in that. I mean, Seven Church has flipped a lot of my life around too, because I was like, wow, like Bathory and Possessed were a step up from what Venom was. Venom was just, it was bam, and it just fucking went. It took all that, you know, reggae-ish bullshit stuff that they were trying to do in the late 70s and 80s, and like this with it. It said, the hell with that, we're going to be over the top. And they took, it's the same old story about Venom. I'm only recycling when I learned from them guys. Who better to learn from the pioneers, right? That's the way I look at it. Just try to carry on the tradition in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, but bands like that, I mean, it takes certain guys like, I think just the mindset. I think it's the society that people are in, what goes on in their house, outside their house, and when they're among each other in certain situations, really build character. It builds a character and a charisma of people. And then when they get together, a bigger thing if they're on the same page, and that bigger thing turns into an energy field. That's the way I look at it. And the energy field makes this whole thing. It's like, well, what can we do with this, man? We're all thinking the same thing. This is great. This is great. Some people, start fires. Some people wreck cars. Some people make music. Some people do artwork or write books. It's just, you know what I mean? It's that early energy aggression thing that, you pump with so much of it, and when it's a hot thing. It's such an emotional grab, and some people are wired and it hits. And if you're with the right people, it hits right, man, and it goes, and it stands the test of time. I think music is such a passionate art form. It definitely is the voice of time. It's a timeless thing. There's no boundary on that. It's either, I like Susie's Quattro quote. She used to say, there is, I don't think anybody is good or bad. She goes, there's either good music or bad music, and whatever it is. She's like, and I think there's room for everything. It's either good or bad, and that's it, no matter what the style is. I tend to think, what, that's really a good way to look at it, because not everybody agrees on everybody's tastes. And I just say this all the time. The more somebody tells you what you like sucks, the more you fucking like it 10 times, 50 times more. That was my whole life when I was a kid. When I was younger, I went to Catholic high school for 2 years. And the more people tried to tell me with that skating ring music and everything, oh, that shit, that headbang music, that's Kill Your Mother stuff, that stuff sucks. It's just, I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, I guarantee you, when I get older, it's still going to be around in heavy circulation more than your pop bullshit is. And lo and behold, it is. We got bands retiring. I think the biggest, for me, Motorhead, for me, was the thing that was from my whole life up to the.
Chris talks so fast he locks up.
Roy,
I'm sorry, but again, Motorhead was the childhood platform of a hero until the day he died, and that stayed with all those years. Music to do, and we're involved in.
Is he freezing up on YouTube, Roy?
Yeah. He talks so fast that he freezes up.
Okay.
He's Chris. He's on Wi-Fi.
He's got
and
things
he
to
freezes up because he's talking so fast.
The world's got to know. The world's got to know this.
He's like Susie Quattro. God damn it! Let's go. Yeah, he freezes up. You got to get a landline, Chris. It would help.
Can you hear me now?
Good.
And I don't take any drugs.
Yeah.
This is all coffee and
I noticed,
high energy.
I noticed that you replaced music as your drug over drugs, basically. You know what I mean? I know you, Chris, too. So
always,
music is your drug. You know what I mean? So I could tell because the way that you referred to it, like it was like some sexual act. Yeah. And that's how people
Lenny
usually
said it
refer
best,
to like
didn't he?
He
drugs. Said he can either be with, but it is. I mean, again, the quote best he be. You're for an hour and a half, you have sex for about, 5 to 15 minutes. He said, so I don't know. I like that kind of thing,
I like how Chris broke out just with the sex line.
To me,
just everything else he said was just like not heard.
That was perfect. That was perfect. Yeah. You can
pretty classic, Chris.
The audience can fill in the blank there.
Yeah, exactly. You talk so fast, Chris, that your Wi-Fi.
Well, I hope
like,
it's a full message.
Hurt me. It was a good message.
So sorry.
So
I'm saying,
Drew, I'm going to go back to you first. Let's go back to Drew for a second, Chris. Let's go to Drew for a second, Chris. After you did connect with New Renaissance, you know what I mean? Like you you like you said, you seemed like you were pumping out one album cover per like month or whatever. Like how many did you pump out for them? Like 20 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I think it's around 20. I think so.
Yeah.
It was one of the problems that I had, because I was doing so much art for that label, I tried to do like kind of like I tried to not stay in the same style every time, because I didn't want the bands to feel like they're getting stuff everybody the same stuff, which
right.
Sometimes it didn't work out. Sometimes there's some record covers that I don't like, I think suck, even though I did them, I'm like, ugh, that was pretty bad, but whatever. So but
Which one,
so the bad part was, like if you were like style, everything, and I times style like I did. I had it messing around with. I feel like my favorite stuff is after I left New Renaissance, like the tail end, and then when I left. But of course I wasn't really doing much stuff for labels at the time. So nobody, it's like I did the Ex Mortis stuff, and then I did the Goreaphobia stuff, and that's kind of like, that's kind of like when things, I feel like we're starting to get good for me, but I mean, the New Renaissance is great. I mean, Indestroy's cover.
I think you progressed. By the time you did like the Ex Mortis demo covers and all the Ex Mortis art, and then by the time you worked with the Goreaphobia stuff, you had refined a lot more, dude. Which is cool.
I couldn't wait to get you.
You started to move towards darker colors, maybe, and even if something is just a one color, you know what I mean? Like for some reason, it brought out a little more.
Yeah.
I don't know what a lot of feeling.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a classic now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, Chris, I pulled out that 7 the other day. And I love that Seraphic Decay 7-inch. I think it's so great. Like that cover's great. The record's great.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It made me feel like I was a New Renaissance. I loved it, though. I loved it. That's what I wanted. I loved it so much.
Yes.
It was a part of it. It was such a big part of me. I love that stuff. Your artwork is very... It's very...
Annie hooked us.
Oh, yeah.
I guess Annie hooked us up.
Yeah, I told her who I wanted.
Like every time one of these podcasts happens.
Ann Bowman?
Yeah, she's amazing. She really did a lot.
When did you leave LA and where did you move to? When you left LA, where did you move to?
I came back to Philly. I moved client accident. I moved to my parents' house in Delaware County. And then I moved to Philadelphia, and that's when I met Annie at Rock and Roll Plus.
Right.
And that whole crew. And that was that was just really great time. And then when Annie started putting those shows on at G. Willikers, that was just like the birth of something special,
Oh, man.
Because when I was in LA, I was mostly in the punk scene. Like I was But when I came back here and saw what was happening, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. What's going on now? This is cool.
Were you drawing like flyers for the underground punk scene?
Shot and all.
Were you drawing flyers for the underground punk scene?
The shows that I was going to, not really. I mean, like I'm talking about like just as a fan, most of the shows that I was going. I mean, I was going to the big metal shows. Like I saw Venom there, I saw Motor there. I saw Celtic Frost there a couple times. I saw that, but I was also seeing COC and the Dead Kennedys, and like that. Like the people I lived with, they were more like punk people than metal people. So like we all just kind of were eating off of each other's tastes,
right?
Mixing and matching and blending it. But like I felt like metal was kind of like it wasn't super exciting, even though the new Renaissance records were happening. Those shows weren't necessarily. Not that I knew of. I didn't know about it. It was all over the country. Then when it came back to the East Coast, that was like that whole, I was talking to Alex Books at the desk thing, and we were saying, it felt like everybody from New York to Baltimore was at those G. Willikers shows. Everybody who liked that music on the East Coast.
I was there.
I was there. Those shows,
New Jersey boy who lived an hour and 45 minutes away was there.
Exciting.
Yeah, dude. That was another imprint between those early comps, G. Willikers. I mean, that all led up to a lot of what I thought was underground stuff at the time. And I mean, obviously it is, and it's like it made such a friggin' huge impact on my life, I have to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in a band, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure it made impact on people in bands as well. But for me, it was like a completely different, it was just like a fan thing.
Yeah.
And then like I could go to a show, I don't have to carry equipment in, I'm just there just to see the bands, just to stand up front.
Right.
You know what I mean? See bands also with Annie and Ann shows was like kind of like, I never heard the bands. So like, even though they were having shows with 4 bands, maybe I've only heard one of them, if that. So then it would be like 3 bands I never even heard. And by like the second song of some of these bands, I was like, damn, I really am into this, like I want to see this. And what do they got? And do they got merch? Do they, what are they doing? They don't have records, like this band's just incredible, dude,
Right.
There was a lot of that going on, and it was weird, it was cool.
I remember one of the standouts for me when Cars played G. Curse, and like I had like no idea what as far as like who was going to show up to this, because how it's hard to gauge like how big is this, right? And then you get there and there's this gigantic line. I'm like, oh my god, this thing is big. Like this is big, like holy shit,
Hell yeah.
And like the
that Carcass show was crazy.
We went down to DC to see them play with that,
Yeah,
it was great. It was
I saw
times.
Carcass also the night before at Lemoore.
Super nice. They were really nice kids.
I had seen Carcass the night before at Lemoore.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I saw them at G. Willikers, and it was completely like
great.
2 conflicting things, because you've been to Lemoore, obviously, so you got the stage, and you know what I mean. It's kind of like a bigger place, etc. And at G. Willikers, you're right on the floor, like next to the band, like they're like 5 feet away from you,
Yeah.
Which is really strong. It gives you a really strong feeling. Are you going to ask if it's locking up a lot? Because it's locking up all the time. Death and Carcass?
No. I was asking if Death was at Lemoore. Yeah, the Carcass show.
Yeah. You know what? It's weird. It was. Yeah, I think it was Death.
But they were Maryland.
You know what? It's funny you said that, because like I've been going through in my head to say like who played what. So Death did skip G. Willikers, right?
Yeah.
that particular Carcass show?
No.
They were there.
No, they played.
No,
they were
they
there.
didn't play that show, but they were on that tour.
We opened.
They played it.
Oh, were they
They
there?
played.
But they didn't play.
I believe
Carcass.
they played at Lemoore. You know what's weird? It's just like I was so into Carcass. I don't even know if I cared if Death was playing, dude. That's so sad, right?
By then,
Well,
I only went to hear Scream Bloody Gore, but that's
if
me.
you look at
They played.
Yeah. But if you look at the Decaying Visions, the interview with Carcass, that's at G. Willikers. That's it.
Yes, it is.
G. Will, and they were talking about how Death wasn't there. They didn't play that show, but they played.
Gotcha.
But they were on that was the tour that they were playing together, but they didn't play that
Right.
show. I don't know why they didn't play it.
Right. Maybe finances, maybe the
So I didn't know
capacities.
it
Who knows?
Lemoore.
You know. I guess that's a question for Frantic Ann, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they didn't play.
I did see them at Lemoore, but the thing
But that
is,
was
I
good
couldn't.
times.
I can't really remember sometimes. Like my Death shows are getting a little intermingled. It's just like for me, it's like my Death shows get intermingled with each other because they would come and play.
A lot of shows are.
My Morbid Angel shows
Yeah.
would get intermingled because then I remember. Go ahead.
Well, sometimes you don't realize what you're seeing. Like this is important. Like it's only like you realize it is. Because tour and Obituary played G. Willikers. That's pretty big for G. Willikers.
Dude.
But at the time, you're like, okay, I guess like, cool, I'm going. People are going.
You said it though, the gauge and the
Then
line.
times
It's
you're
like,
like,
wow, Carcass is bigger than I thought,
I
dude.
was there. I think I remember.
Yeah, it's some of it I remember. I remember more. The younger I was, the more I remember, because the younger I was, say I was like 17, I felt like I couldn't walk outside the club because I thought I wouldn't get back in, basically. So then, by the time I turned 18, I was like, all right, I guess I could walk outside and get back in, no matter what. You know what I mean? Because I mean, again, I'm just a fan. I'm not carrying, It's cool though. G. Willikers is friggin' godly, ungodly.
I know. And that scene was, I remember it being friendly. That's what stuck out to me because I came from LA. And going to shows in LA is a little sketchy sometimes. But going to death metal shows in the East Coast at that time was really like, oh, this is really fun. Like, this is really a lot of fun.
So let's let Chris ride a little bit on this. I want to hear some of Chris's
rough.
memories of G. Willikers too, Chris, because it seemed like, if I'm not mistaken, between you and Alex, you were feeding and some of these bands, obviously, that came and played there. I'm not certain about Carcass, but...
Not Carcass, but Fatal, Apparition, Immolation, Incantation, Mortician, Deceased, Ex Mortis. Who else we bring? The Hell Witch.
Nuclear Death.
Which almost didn't happen. But Hell Witch stayed with me. They were my friends, but there was an infighting thing there. I'm not going to be a negative Nelly about too much of it, but basically, because not everything goes smooth, okay? But who else? Nuclear Death, because I used to talk to Lori all the time on the phone.
Who hooked up this one? What about Disharmonic Orchestra? Who do you think was the connect? That was a weird one. Disharmonic Orchestra? That was a weird one.
I'm not sure. Now, after a while, Ann started once me and Alex were going to the store, we were talking to Ann about stuff, we noticed she had fanzines in Rock and Roll Plus because that's the store she was working in. And that's how we met Craig. We met Craig Smolowski through Ann because Ann was friends with Craig when he was in Violamash, the band that he was in before Goreaphobia. So it's the camaraderie thing. Like I said earlier, it's a part of your social gathering. You're not on the internet. You have to actually go out, meet the people, talk to them, and you feel them out, and you build a relationship. And then you start building character with people, and things happen. and then they happen for a reason because things align with people correctly, you know, and it's good. It's nice that it happens that way. I think a lot of it's missing. I want to make sure I'm not talking too fast.
No, you're good now.
No, but so we kind of were telling her about a lot of the underground stuff because she really didn't know. You know the big label stuff, which is of course, you know, she's going to know that you're working in a record shop, but the demo stuff and everything, no, there was no. We kind of introduced her to what the underground was, and we gave her the connections. It was it'd be a good idea to get this band, match this band with this band, put this band with this one. You know, it would be a good idea. So Alex would get on the phone. I would get on the phone. We would write, talk to people, and then we're like, okay, Ann, here they are. We would contact them, and Ann would put it together because she knew Dottie, the owner of G. Willikers. G. Willikers would happen. That was the place to have shows. They would have it, and there was really a lot of free reign of things going on there, and that's you know, and then it just, you know, then history starts making its own history. You know, and then everybody starts gathering and everybody makes their connections more and more. A club thing. It's a lot like, not trying to compare, but the parallels of the way things must have been with like CBGBs and Lemoore's.
Yeah.
G. Willikers was a Philly connection. And it was a connection from like DC, Delaware, Philly, but it bought New York and North Jersey and that area and Buffalo and all and Rhode Island down into that area.
No, I feel that. I feel what you're saying. It is kind of asimilar.
Like yes, and we had
kind of asimilar to the Lemoore scene,
which was
Brooklyn. Then you had the Manhattan scene of CBGBs. You know what I mean? And then you might have had other, you know, localized kind of scenes. Like I don't remember. There was like a certain like North Jersey scene. So we had Studio One. You know what I mean? Or we had the Pipeline. Or we had Obsessions, you know, those were our three, like, you know, those were our three, like, scene places, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which, you know, clusters of metalheads. You didn't have what?
Well, none of us had a car in the band back in the day, and G. Willikers was right across the bridge from where I live. I'm still living in the same house that we started Goreaphobia in. No, actually, that's wrong.
So did you ever have to, so did you or any of your band members have to walk to G. Willikers or any of the fans that were friends with you from where you lived?
I had a friend, Amy, that used to live nearby there. And if there was ever anything stuck, used to go over there sometimes and hang with her. No, but everybody was pretty easy enough to get around. Everybody was cool enough. Hey, man, give me a lift. Sure, come on. And had her house, you know, and it was like a band house because Joe Paz lived there, and he used to do security for Trocadero and stuff. So there was, you know, that was the place you can go and hang. You didn't have to worry. There's no curfew. There's no. That was it. That was the house. So we just went there. I mean, I remember a couple of times Alex and I walking along 95 to get to certain places. We didn't have cars yet, so we would just walk on the highway.
That's what I was just asking.
Yeah.
An old Goreaphobia shirt with a red logo with Drew Elliott artwork. Got it in '92.
I don't have.
I think that's Alfonso. I think that's Alfonso Art Gore. That shirt in particular, brother, because that has the red logo, if I remember correctly, and then it has the white.
That's
a different shirt.
Is that a Mexican? Was that a
Mexican artist?
That red logo, was that a Mexican print?
It was a Mexican artist called Alfonso Art Gore. I was friends with him. He did like early artwork of like Shub Niggurath.
Oh yeah.
Cenotaph.
I think
he used to send art. He's a cool
he might
guy.
have been the guy that did the the one shirt we did along, you know, towards the end of Goreaphobia ending. The Vortex.
I think that was it.
It could have been him because for the longest time I swore by Drew, and then Phil from Nuclear Death. They were the only two people that could envision what I had for Goreaphobia lyrically, you know. So Drew, you know, I know I'm saying this all the time. I don't mean to keep lathering your ass, my friend, but it's true. You were a big part of making Goreaphobia for me through your artwork. Your artwork actually was just as vitally important as music growing up to me too, because it was all part of it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But I believe in that. It's the kind of person I love, because I love artwork, and I wanted to be a comic book artist when I was a kid. I still collect Marvel comics, and I love all that stuff in the creepies and eerie. So, I used to, heavy metal music back then just went with all that artwork. And, Drew, you were the underground guy that had all those historic album covers, in my opinion. So you were very influential on part of the vision for what I had with Goreaphobia. It kind of, sparked some lyrical energy out of it. So, yeah.
One time I met a cool tape trader at G. Willikers, and I heard he had passed on eventually.
Dave
Kajian, yeah. And he came up to me and he said, "Hey, you want to buy some cassettes or something?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. What do you got?" And he's like, "Oh, I got this live Repulsion and some live Autopsy." I'm like, yeah, I'll buy those.
Yeah, I mean? That's all that guy did. That's all he did. He went to my high school too. Dave.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. He went to my high school, Frankfurt High. And he would be in school. It was me, him, this other guy, Mike. I can't remember his fucking last name. Jesus Christ. Was a black guy there too, a black fellow. What the hell was his name? James? And there was two girls, Shauna and anyway, there was a small group of us that kind of did that. Right. Just tape trade, you critique, you discuss, you go out after school and you would go to the record store and check out all this stuff. And then those people were going to those early G. Willikers shows. And then, life goes on, get married, kids or whatever, and move away or you just whatever. But a lot of those people were good staple marks as part of, social environment, growing up, a history of just doing things. It's it says a lot. I'm very grateful to be part of something that generated a lot of good things. You got to take the good with the bad, and there's no ill wills or any malicious thing with me whatsoever. It's just a sign of the times, and you got to go through it and weed through the shit, and then you figure it out, and then the most important thing stays there, and that's the music. That's the thing that you love that stays there all the time. That's the thing that's everything, Jack. Without that,
I got a question. I got a question for Drew, and I got a question for Chris too. Okay,
let Drew answer first.
I'll start with Drew first. Drew, you talked about the G. Williker scene, and you were living in Philadelphia at the time. Was there any other clubs down in Philadelphia doing either thrash metal or like death metal type shows, like in 1990 or even before maybe G. Willikers? Were you living around there then?
Not that I remember for like that kind of music. I mean, obviously a lot of like punk shows in Philadelphia. Uh-huh. Philly was pretty punk, but all the death metal shows at that time, I was going to G. Williker.
Yeah, that's all we had.
Okay, just wanted to ask. So I could, you both answered it. I was just curious if there was anything.
J.C. Dobbs. Do you remember J.C. Dobbs?
Yeah, that was like 91, 92. J.C. Dobbs did
that's the first show I ever wore face paint. And I spit blood. Yeah. I was trying to be...
What year is that?
Like 91 or 92. It was with Deceased, Incantation, Goreaphobia.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it was a cool show. I remember they had a little upstairs area.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I went up there to smoke some weed with Ronnie Dio. Incantation.
Big surprise, right?
So we went up into some little dressing room thing, and we rolled up a little bit of weed, and
that's the birthplace
after they played.
From the Three Stooges.
The what?
Right.
That's supposed to be the birthplace of Larry Fine from the Three Stooges.
Oh wow!
That's what the story goes. Whether it's bullshit or not, I don't know.
I didn't hear you.
He said it was the birthplace of the creator of the Three Stooges.
No, Larry Fine.
Larry Fine.
For Larry. Yeah, for Larry. It used to have it painted on the side of the wall. Birthplace of Larry Fine used to be painted on the side of the wall.
I remember the insides a little bit. Didn't they have all like photographs of like rock stars and like
yeah, right.
a long time
Yeah,
ago.
they only had a few shows, not much, and then there was
They didn't have too many shows there. I remember the Troc. I remember seeing Unleashed and Morbid Angel at the Troc in like 91.
Yeah.
And some part of the reason I remember that show kind of good is because I brought my little handheld tape recorder because I wanted to tape the show, you know what I mean? And have something to go home with so I could listen to Unleashed beyond the demos or whatever, you know? So if say like if Unleashed or Morbid Angel played as a new song or something, I might have it on that, like, you know, would have it like on the little handheld cassette. And if somebody came up and was trying to talk to me during the show, I was like, leave me alone.
You have that good soundboard of us, Roy.
I'm a squirrel basically in the other life or whatever. So like I have soundboards, I have audience recordings. I'll give a shout out to Damien. His last name escapes me, from South Jersey.
Golnick.
Yeah, he gave me a bunch of Goreaphobia recordings that he did, I guess, in the same way as me, where he just went to the show. And then also Goreaphobia recordings that spread around that time in a weird way. They spread around on the video with John Verica, and then they spread around an audio form of John Verica's videos too in a weird way, like in the scene just a little bit. Because sometimes people just rip the audio version of it and then kind of tape trade it or whatever, which was cool. Yeah, it was always bugged out to go to an old Goreaphobia show or like, Ripping Corpse or something. And then like the band is like, so this is the first time we're going to play this song ever. You know what I mean? And that happened a lot at G Willikers. And for me, they used to put shivers up and down my arms because I was so into the bands. You know what I mean? For them to say like, this is going to be the first time we ever played this live, and it'd be like, you know what I mean? Whoever the band was at the time too. And it was like, wow, dude, I'm seeing them playing the song for the first time, you know? And here I am, like kind of to the side, like I'm like shivering, but I'm like, oh God, this is so freaking brutal, dude. I can't believe how good this show is right now, you know?
I always liked hanging out with Will Raymer. Always liked hanging out with Will. Always liked hanging out with Will.
Yeah, definitely. Matt Sitcher. I mean, sometimes I would hang out with him and shoot the shit, you know, or I remember Mark Gonch and Corpse Grinder, you know, when
George,
he was just George.
Yeah,
they would be at the shows.
He used to come to our rehearsals. He used to come to my practice place. Unleashed was at our practice place. We were making a demo. They were there. I got a bag. Johnny had a bag of tapes with him. I got Afflicted, Crematorium, Nihilist demo from him. What else did I get from him? Afflicted Convulsion, I think was the other one. Unanimated. I got all those demo tapes from him. I bought them all from him. He had a bag of them. He was selling them. Bought them all. Yeah.
On the grind. Sick. Yeah, it was weird. Like every little scene that would come to G Willikers, you would try to you wouldn't try. You wouldn't try. You would intermingle with that scene. So it's like if Virginia guys came up from Deceased or Abominog or Incarnus or Death Vomit, Zine, Jeff, you know what I mean? They might just be chilling in one section of the club. You know, I was very outgoing, so if there was somebody wearing a shirt of a band I liked, I would just go right up to them and be like, yo, that's a sick shirt, dude. You know, I love that band. You know? Strike up a conversation with them. You know,
that's
and
the generation we come from.
Yeah, I didn't even realize they were from Virginia. Like, I thought they were like from like Pensacola. And then, you know, maybe as the show went on, I figured it out. If they like all their friends like kind of flocked up front, like if Deceased played, like all of them would flock up front. And I'm like, oh, those guys are with Deceased. Oh, cool, man. You know, that was it was always interesting and cool, man. You know, and
Sure.
Even as time went on a little bit, it was like you had like, you know, Goreaphobia playing a lot of shows. And then all of a sudden, like you had like Crucifier, you know what I mean? And they would come and, you know, there was like a Crucifier show that was like completely ridiculous, dude. It was like a friggin', they had a goddamn, like a 10-foot inverted friggin' cross that they stuck on stage that barely even fit in G Willikers.
Thanks, Profanatica.
They come in with like a friggin', you know, dirty looking bag with a friggin' dead animal in it. And it's just like goat or something. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This is like a goddamn, some kind of satanic ritual shit, you know? But like literally like a couple,
yeah.
It wasn't even that long after though. There was like, the cops were there like immediately, dude. So you just seen the cops walking through the door, you know what I mean? Because like, I think maybe they were off stage at that point or at the end of the set, you know? So it was kind of like the cops show up, you know? I'm like,
there was one time they were there for
the show is awesome, dude. You know, like, it's just like the cops are here. Like there's friggin' like huge inverted friggin' this and that, you know? It's just like ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like completely satanic feeling kind of zone. It was so bugged out, dude, you know? It was just like evil. It was
that came there right after Profanatica played. Once Profanatica started doing all that, Aragon started doing all that stuff.
Well, I remember they had their statues. They had their unholy statues.
Bucket of blood. They had a bucket of blood. Aragon had a bucket of earthworms. Once Profanatica came and did all that prop stuff, that's whenever other people started bringing props into the club. They were the ones that were like, Dottie was like, yeah, you know, they let them do it.
Right.
And then after that, after Profanatica did their first show there, that's when everybody started bringing props into that club. I remember that specifically. I was there for that one. But I remember cops being there for Will Raymer.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I remember Will Raymer chasing the guy from Hazarax around a van one time, but that's about all I remember.
Oh my God! I used to call. Still to this day, I call him like, "You're Ajax, man. You're Ajax."
I think that was the first Crucifier show, dude. You know, if I'm not mistaken, that was the first Crucifier show. I was texting with Kaz today a little bit. I'm going to do an interview with Kaz because he stayed pretty busy, dude. You know, he stayed pretty busy in the scene, multiple bands and stuff, which is cool. You know. So, Chris,
yes.
Originally, when I was rolling into this, I wanted to talk to you a bit about Bloodstorm.
Okay.
Basically, I had a couple things I want to bring up. Back years and years and million years ago, back in the old days, you know, Goreaphobia kind of ended for you, and you decided to pick up a guitar and basically decided to be not only a front man, but a singer and also a guitar player. And then you started churning out some Bloodstorm stuff. You know, you obviously came out as Bloodstorm. Yeah. So this being, I'm assuming, your first demo?
Yes, it was. Yeah. Actually, there's a Goreaphobia song.
Battle?
Yep. There's a Goreaphobia song on that I lyrically I took, and I took some of the skeletal work of the music and did it my way, the way that I originally wanted it to be. Yeah, the song "Calling Lands of Bloodstorm" off of that was really a Goreaphobia song. What was it? It was Necropolis. It was Necropolis Offering. Was actually a song, and I kind of rewrote it. I used the parts I liked in it, and then put it on that demo.
So let me ask you too, though. In this demo, right? I don't know if there's some more pages to it, but it's just like Mezzadurus. Like, I know your brother played on this demo, right? Frank Gamble.
Yes.
Okay. So how come Frank Gamble doesn't have his own panel?
Because at the time, Frank was already involved. He was still doing Necrophagia. He was involved with them guys still. And his outlook, he didn't want to be in a band, really. He wanted to just play. He didn't want he didn't really want nothing else. And he's my brother. And I was like, Frank, man, I got this stuff written on the drum machine. Hey, it's like, hey, man, do you think, you got nothing going on right now? Hey, man, you want to play drums to these real quick? So I just record it, and I'm trying to establish a whole new band. He's like, yeah. So me and my brother just went to practice place. And next thing you know, we were like, you know what, man? If you like what you're doing, you want to make some more? And Frank's like, yeah. And I like my brother's drumming because my brother has a hardcore background. He's very influenced by Crumbsuckers and Cro-Mags, TBH, and that kind of stuff, that drum style. My brother has a very hardcore drum style. And I love Venom and Motorhead so much that I like to have a lot of the. At the time, I was really learning guitar when I was writing them songs. They were all, I'm just going to do it, man, and just that's it. I'm not going to. I didn't sit there and try to overthink it too much. I'm just going to do exactly what I feel like doing, and make it that way, and that's what's going to come out because that's what's inside of me right now. So I made it that way. I made those songs pretty much simple. They were simple songs. And, Daddy, hold on a minute. No. Excuse me a minute.
That's fine, brother.
Honey, I'm talking, hon. I'm sorry. I'm doing an interview. Let me do this. Okay. Daddy's talking to his friend, Roy. Okay. All right. So anyway,
you could bring her on. So this being your second demo too, and can I just assume that this was you and your brother again, or?
Yes. Yeah, it was me and my brother Frank again. Yep.
Again, your brother is not on the. Where's your brother's picture? It's not on the cover.
Again, he didn't want to be like a member. He really didn't. He's like, I don't care. I don't want to be. He's like, nah, because he was working with other people. And he just he wasn't so into, he just wasn't really into being noticed. You know what I mean? It just wasn't his thing. But, I said, okay, man, it's probably, he's like, I'm just playing the drums, dude. I don't care. My brother was still partying with some of the other boys that he used to play with, and he was doing stuff on the side. So he didn't care. And when I was doing Bloodstorm for me, when I picked that up, it's because it's everything I kind of wanted Goreaphobia to go into, in late 92 into 93, after we did that Immolation tour. I was starting to I really want to get more. I really want to get a lot more, just very aggressive and
a little blacker.
On the raw. I want to be more raw energy and high power. That's what I really wanted.
At the time, I really thought you were kind of moving into like a black metal direction, in a weird, that's what it seemed like.
I was pushing for that, actually, believe it or not, in Goreaphobia. That's why I was wearing the spikes and the leather. I'm like, I'm all about Possessed and Bathory and Venom. I'm like, that's the thing. That's the thing.
Wait, there's something I want to give a shout out to your brother, first of all, too, because before we, he didn't make it to the cover. And then I'm going to play a song right now that you probably haven't heard in a while. And then I want to talk to you maybe about your brother, because I tried to talk to your brother about this, but I had some bad timing. So check this out, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about for that? Decay.
I remember that.
So I got to ask. So I'm just going to give a quick background to anybody who doesn't know about Decay. So there was this band, Decay. They were pre-members of some of the guys who played on the Incantation demo 90, which was Sal Sajo, and which was Pete Barnovic. And basically they played on the first demo, and they made like just a small rehearsal demo that was basically almost unknown. But now I got a question to pose to you, Chris. I really try to ask your brother this question. Like, I heard your brother was supposed to be in Decay at some point, and
he played drums on that. I think
he played drums on that.
Yeah.
Okay? I never knew that. He's not on the rehearsal demo cover as the drummer, but yeah.
Really? I remember it. Well, maybe they used to play that song. I remember it specifically.
Okay. I kind of heard a story, and like I want to ask you, but it's like I feel weird asking, but I heard that he was supposed to join Decay.
Yep.
Frank and Ephraim, his brother, drove down to Philadelphia, parked their van in front of your house, and then your brother never came out and never played with them. But I don't know if that was like some later stuff or
my brother indulged. He liked his pharmaceuticals, okay? His nasal decongestants, right? Filthy Taylor used to call it that as a good thing. Well, memory serves me right. He was with his girlfriend, and he was out of his mind back then a bit. You know, he was really chaotic. Right. My brother really was a chaotic soul, and he didn't do well when he partied. And yeah, they waited all day. They parked overnight for him, and he just didn't come out, man. They were like, yeah, we can't do this no more. We can't waste time. I was like, guys, you got to do what you got to do.
They stalked out your house and lived in their van and waited for basically him to come outside. And it took a day. It took a day for him to come outside. So interesting story, though. Yep. Hey, life goes on too, though. Yeah, but I don't think enough people know about Decay, so I figured I would just play that just for the hell of it.
It's a shame it didn't happen, but that's one of the things, you know, you see just being around, you know. I mean, there's probably all kinds of stuff that would have been really cool to see from other people, you know, but you don't get to say it, you know. It's like I'd have liked to been a fly on the wall when I heard about, you know, I think it was Scott from Repulsion. He was talking about a story about him and Soldener when they used to like write back and forth, and he used to try to be on the phone and write who would write the sickest riffs and the sickest lyrics with each other back and forth. That'd be kind of cool to be sitting in a room with one of them guys. Like those kind of things are interesting, you know.
So let's move away from that era. Sure. I just had to ask that question because it was interesting. No problem. So at some point you joined Absu, basically. I'm assuming. So I had some footage here. This is live at the Milwaukee Metal Fest 9, and Chris has this, or Mezzadurus has this on his Facebook, which is the Bloodstorm. What is it again? Say the name.
Bloodstorm.
The YouTube channel.
Oh, Bloodstorm Official.
Okay.
I think it's Bloodstorm Official.
This is pretty destructive, you know?
They bought that out of me.
crazy, brother.
Yeah.
That was some crazy performance right there. And I saw Postscriptor in the background there, just killing it.
Yeah. I miss Ray, Russ, and Mike.
And he missed it, yeah. Like you came and joined them for a little while. Best Absu lineup. Interesting. Yeah, you came and joined them for a while, did your thing, and then I remember. You know what sticks out, like that you were an Absu, obviously, for that period of time as like a session guy or whatever. But you remember something that sticks out more to me at the time was that, say, like you and Russ. I don't want to send you off on a complete tangent, bro, but you and Russ were super into like these like occult books that were like really cool, man. Can you talk about that a little bit with me? Like what kind of books were you guys reading? Because normal fare is just those two, like it's just like the Necronomicon and like Satanic Bible. You know what I mean? So what were you guys getting into that like maybe nobody else was?
Ooh, I can't speak 100% for Russ. I don't want to do that.
Of course,
man,
obviously.
You know, there's things in I think anybody that's an occultist, at least majority of the people that I've come across, there's always things in your private library that you kind of hold it close to, and you don't reveal it so much, because it's such a really kind of key. It's, well, for me, I look at it that way, and I don't really ask too much. I've always come accustomed, because my advisor, I did study with a man, an older gentleman, when I back in the Goreaphobia days I met, and I respected him, a great mind, and he was well versed. The man was in his 50s. It was. And you talk, you converse with these people outside of your normal surroundings, and you I
like this. You don't want to reveal the secrets. I like it.
Not
it's like,
everything.
You know what? It's like it's like years ago. Like I wrote to Blasphemy, and they sent me a letter, and it was like, call this phone number and say this phrase, and then you can meet us at the Ross Bay Cemetery. You know what I mean? At some specific at witching hour, basically. Yeah. So it was just like, damn, I wish they had one of those around here, dude, because I would definitely have called that number, basically.
Russ and I, there was a couple times back in those days. He's a very passionate guy. He really is. He's great.
Yeah. I know he's super passionate.
So many late night conversations with me and him. We would, just go to Denny's or something and just have, a cup of coffee, just bullshit, about everything. And,
I think other people's, I don't want to call that a hobby, because for some people it's a life. You know what I mean? But I think it's interesting for other people to. The thing is, like, I look at musicians and music as one thing, but then sometimes I look into the person too, and I'm like, well, what
that's
an
arm. Music's an arm, but there's a whole body that goes with that person that speaks volumes about what makes them the kind of person they are. That's the way I look at stuff,
And the more I'm into either that person or whatever, I usually am interested in like what they're doing, or, look at their band shirt, or I'll look at, or I'll be curious, like I remember when I was like younger.
They're identifiable.
I remember when I was younger, like I heard the guy from like DRI wrote like a poetry book or something, and I was like, damn, I want that,
Foster wrote a poetry book. I still got to get it yet. It's one thing I didn't get her. I need to get it. Love that woman. But anyway, Russ, I'll say this for him, because it's pretty well known. He's a very good tarot reader. He's very well versed on his Celtic and Scottish heritage and mythology, divination, tasseomancy, and very much the thing that we most probably in common with is our Mesopotamian and Sumerian folklore, tales, deity, history, and magic. And they're fascinated with, the society and everything that goes on with it, the real dark history of those civilizations. To me, it's the most richest and the most mysterious, because I think there's definitely an out of this world influence that's still here today. And I still think the government has their hands dipped in a lot of this stuff under certain programs.
Well, if you think about Mesopotamia and all these places, they're buried. You know what I mean? Like these cities
they
are
grave
buried.
robbed all those places too. They grave robbed so much. That Gulf War, they ripped so much of that stuff out. From what I understand, I don't know. I wasn't there, but from what I heard from people, they said, yeah, a lot of those places just got grave robbed. I mean, you know, I mean, but books, him and I, some of the things. I mean, he's very much. He liked his Aleister Crowley. He liked a lot of that. I liked Austin Osman Spar, which was Crowley's mentor. I'm more into him than I am Crowley. Crowley, I thought more. To me, he was more flash and flamboyancy, you know, kind of real, you know, high on his own stink kind of thing. It's my opinion. So, and I always thought that all of his work. I mean, of course, it's highly. Influential on many people in many different ways, but for me, he's not my thing. I like more of Kenneth Grant's work and Alice A. Bailey, the Seventh Rays, and one interesting thing I thought was kind of neat. It was a book I bought years ago, which really influenced the writing of Pestis from the Dragonstar album of Bloodstorm. And that was the Serious Mystery by Robert Temple. So I did a little background about him. I'll touch on this book because it has to do with the album. You know, it has to kind of do with the album. It's kind of a big focal point at the time, yeah. And it's Silver Magic. And a thing I thought fascinating about it was when I went to go order the book, and I just thought it was weird. To me, it was just weird because it's the first time it happened to me. I had to go to Barnes & Nobles to get it because the place I used to get a lot of my occult books, he wasn't there anymore. He retired, a wealthy man who lives on a farm, and I'm not going to disclose where it is because the man wanted to be in privacy. So, you know, he retired and moved away, a rich man. Good for him. So anyway, I had to go to Barnes & Nobles and order the book. So I ordered the book, and automatically they wanted to know my name, address. And the fun I thought was weird is they asked me for my social security number. Why would you ask me for my social security number in Barnes & Nobles for a specific book? I noticed, this is just me. I mean, maybe it's my wacky mind going in a directions because that's what I do. I write. So I formulate a lot of ideas out of these things, but they happen. These things happen. So therefore, it makes me think there must be something more to these things. There has to be, right? I mean, that's just
like you got to register with us if you want that book, bro. You know?
So I was like, okay, so why do you need my social security number? Well, we just do that for our book orders. Specific books have to get ordered. I'm like, well, I can understand like a name and an address, maybe a phone number. So when you get the book in to purchase it, you come and get it. But my social security number, that's odd. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
and that's that. When that happened, I remember I used to be an avid listener of Art Bell, Coast to Coast AM, and all that stuff because he deals a lot of paranormal and a lot of UFO and things like that. So there's so much rich things that go on in the world, and just Russ and I used to discuss a lot of things like this from time to time. And before he would get drunk on his wine, he used to have a big jug of wine. He used to sit with him, and he would get so wasted after a while he'd sway in his chair. But we used to stay up and talk mostly. I mean, I talked to Ray and Equitant and Shaftil, of course, Mike. You know, we talked, but Russ I had a lot with when it came to magic and the philosophy of things and just what it did as a culture and stuff. Yeah, because we're big on it. Him and I are big on it, and that's one of the things that they say attracted them to me. Was the fact that I was like that. When they saw me playing Goreaphobia on that 92 tour with Immolation, they were impressed with what I did. And I was grateful that I'm able to do that for people. I mean, I think I'm small potatoes. Okay. I just a guy that lucky enough that the time period and what I did, it synchronized with a couple other guys and we made something happen. And then we made things happen with other people like you, because you're a big part of it too, Roy, in Goreaphobia. You can't have a good band if you don't have good people backing you up. You are always been, I say this all the time, you were always been one of those people that you backed up everything. You were you're the fan. You're the kind of guy, you're the kind of person, I should say, that needs to be there. Otherwise, we can't continue without good people. without good fans. If it's not good backing, there's not going to be music to keep going. And
I was looking at this too. I'll show this because these guys were backing you up. There was a record put out. I'm not sure exactly the year, and then eventually, so this had come out.
Oh yeah,
which was your split record with Nicholas.
Yep.
Yeah, and then now he just recently released a new release with you, or no, I'm sorry, a reissue of one of your older releases, which I think that's cool. And like, he's another guy, right? He stood the test of time, like me. 20 years later, it's like, hey, what's up, bro? Yeah, he's a good man.
Good guy, very good guy, devoted guy. And
so was that? So let me ask a question too. So was that time period when that record came out? Was that recorded before or around or after this band photo time?
Oh God, before. Yeah, that's Chuck and Tom. Oh my God, that's after my brother. That's after Jim was out of the band. My God, yeah, that was right around Syrian Storm. That's when we did the album with you on your label.
I wasn't sure. I remember, I remember receiving that record from him or from you, and I wasn't sure like when it was made, basically. You know what I mean?
We recorded that. Me and my brother recorded that actually not too long after we did the Visions of the Soothsayer demo in '96.
Oh, okay.
That was in the summer. That was like May, June, July of '96. We made that demo. So a couple months in, I think we started recording that late winter into early winter from 1996 into '97. But I was already the session live member for Absu, so it was between the 1995 Absu tour and the '97. It was in that time period where I made that record, and that album got released by Cacophonous right after. It was right. I want to say that was right before we actually did the European tour in '97 with Absu. That got put out. That came out. I think it was. I want to say that got put out in. Oh God, it might have made no. You know what? Now I'm thinking. I think it was April. So we were already on the road. That was before the summer tour in '97 with Absu. I had those. I didn't have them. That was being released, I think, as I was on the road with Absu in '97 in Europe. That was already in the hands of Cacophonous when I was on that tour, on that leg of the tour in Europe. Yeah, because when we came back, I was staying with Roberta Evans, which was Absu's manager at the time. And I was staying in her apartment, and we were getting ready to do our summer tour in '97 with Enslaved and Incantation. Or no, wait a minute, was it? Yeah.
Execution? Wasn't it?
Well, that was
Execution?
That was the European one with Impaled Nazarene. That was in Europe.
Oh, okay.
That was the '95 one. Beautiful. I mean, great guy. It's a time. It's a stamp mark in a person's history. So of course, when you're involved in it, it weighs heavy on your soul and your heart because the memories there, you lived it,
Sure.
I'm grateful for anything I got to do with people over time and the connections I made, because we got one chance on this planet to make a mark and to stamp our history on this planet with other people. And no matter how much money and bullshit you have, you don't take it to your grave with you. And I want to be remembered for my time with people. That's the thing I'm really remembered for is the camaraderie I had with people and just enjoying music and a lot of things that I'm passionate and interested in with other like-minded people, that we can enjoy this and just hope that the generations can carry it on, even if it's for a little bit, just carries those things on. I hope that our kind of music that we grew up with the Led Zeppelin and the Who and the Judas Priest and Raven and Motorhead and Venom, all that a part of us carries it, and a part of us. Oh yeah,
there's a time when I think to myself, like, will my kids dig through my demos?
My kids will. My little girls. I want to say
no. I'm going to say no so far. But I have two. I have one that moved out, so she's a little older, so she didn't dig through the demos. I don't think she dug into the crime and the serial killing books a little bit, and then so then I have two other daughters, and I I see they go a little bit into like a little darker realm. None of them have went full metal,
Yeah.
but I don't know
Yeah.
about the youngest one. She might be on her way. I don't think so, but I never, I just let the kids progress with their musical stuff. And then they say to me, hey, Daddy, I remember when I was young and you played Queen in the car, and I have a Queen record. Check it out, and now I have a turntable.
Yeah.
Check it out. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome, it's cool, It's like, it's there's a bonding for that, between my daughters are older than your daughters, so what I mean.
It's
There's
identifiable.
Yeah, it's cool. And even with the rock, I have a daughter that's super into like old rock. And I let her, I said, here, take these records, Pink Floyd, or I put on some, I was like, you want to check out, we were in the car and I was like, she was talking to me about some Riot Girl music or whatever. And I was like, hey, there's this band I listen to. They're called The Slits, you want to check them out? And I put it on and she was like, so she's sitting there and she's like, this is pretty good, And then she goes, 1980? Like she couldn't believe how old it was, you know what I mean? And I was like, that reaction was amazing to me. I was like, yeah.
It's very fun. It's fun. It's a heartwarming thing when you see a piece of yourself can get passed on. It is. And I knew that when I was a kid, I knew pieces of my dad would stick with me too, because that's just the way it is.
Sure.
And I'm lucky enough. I had a very good relationship with both my parents, and everybody in my family we loved our radio, and we loved our 8-tracks and our tapes and our records. We loved it. That's what we did. As a kid, me and my brother, it was Kiss, The Who, Rush, Led Zeppelin. That was the thing, and Ramones, all that stuff. And then
Jimi Hendrix, 8-tracks. I understand.
Yeah. It's just
I saw those things around in my world too.
Right. And for me, I don't want to be one of them guys to force what I like on my kids. I think that's kind of.
I never did that. Yeah.
Thing. It's not a good thing, because usually they'll go against the grain when you usually do, because it's a natural progression. Kids don't want to, when they're getting older, I think of it as they don't want to do what mom and dad did or their aunts and uncles. They want to do their own thing. They want to follow their own thing. There's got to be an adventure for them. And I think part of the adventure is to be, like you said, to be curious and go, my dad listens to that. What is that? And they'll go and they'll check it out. They'll go thumbing through things, looking through books or records or movies, whatever, and they're just checking it out. What is this that dad's like? What's it about? And they'll figure things out. And they're going to get their own opinion, and I don't believe in forcing that kind of stuff. I just put things on because it's me, and they're going to get it. So far, my daughters, at least Eva, because Cassandra's only 5. So Eva, she likes Led Zeppelin. She likes the Donnas. And they like the Beatles. Because I grew up with that with my father, and it holds a lot
my
for
kids
me.
love it. Like, Dad, put on the Beatles.
So there's those things, and more recently they I noticed when what was coming on just more recently they were like, what is that Crumbsuckers Trapped. We were watching that, and they were like, they're turning their head every once in a while to look, and I know when they turn and look, that's kind of what I did as a kid. It's like, what is that? It's going on. That? It's kind of, certain things have a groove to it, and they'll pick up on it. Of course, they know Susie Quattro, Joan Jett, and the Pretenders because, I have it, so they know that stuff. And
if you're playing that all the time in the house, it's going to rub off on them hard,
Well, as much as I love it, I can't. Contrary to what probably some people think, I don't play that stuff around the clock all the time. I just don't. Everybody goes through phases. You play a bunch of it.
You just talk about it around the clock all the time.
because I admire people like that. And I think she was very underrated. They just never got the credit she deserves. The people like that. And that's me. That's the way I see things and look at it. And I think when things are underrated,
I carry the torch. I carry the torch for bands I feel that are underrated too. So I get it. So
and more so when I read like her book and Lemmy's book, Chrissy Hines' book, people that you like, you read it, and it made me like them even more as people. And it's just, that's what it is. I mean, this is our, this is the planet. This is the things. This is the crock pot we're in, and just whoosh, we're going to come out the way we are, and deal with, swim through things the way we do, and things are going to pick up, things aren't. I mean, you just, you hope that the best of you outweighs the things that were maybe not so good events, and you just hope the best always outshines the worst.
Sure,
I can only hope that, so, and I just look at music that way. I think it's a very important soul building vessel to have. And I look at magic in the same way. And I think that's one of the things that me and Russ really bonded on, was a lot of those kind of things, because we would have those discussions a lot, him and I. And we really got into a lot of those things. And when you have that, I get up on stage with him, he used to say to me, when we were rehearsing for those shows in '95, he's like, Campbell, you and I, we're going to be the movers on stage. He's like, I don't know if Ray, I don't know if Equitant Shafty are going to be up proving like you and I will. I was like, we'll see, won't we? I was like, you hired me for a reason. I'm going to give you everything I got, and hopefully everybody likes it, and hopefully you can enjoy it. And I wanted to represent them.
Oh, you represented them.
Yeah, but I didn't want to. It's kind of like, I am my person, and I'm going to be the way I am, because that's just, I already have that in me. I had it in Goreaphobia. Right. That's the way I am. But I didn't want to. I was hoping that I didn't want to misrepresent them in a way, because they didn't want to be labeled black metal, American black metal. But I had that look about me. But I said my look was, I'm like, listen, I love Kronos so much. I'm like, that man, when I used to watch Venom, it was those three guys. Kronos, Abaddon, Mantis. A big boom. Them three guys on the stage. That was like, man, I get that. When I saw Witching Hour and Bloodlust and all those things, it's like, I get that. That's me. I get that. Also, Celtic Frost and, Possessor. I'm like, that's me. I get that. That's what's inside me. That's what I want to come out visually with what I play. I get it.
Jamming out all badass, or jamming out all badass. Francisco say you are a perfect fit for Absu, and that coming straight from Texas.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I really do.
Listen, let's talk about something else, brother.
Sure.
I'm gonna skip past some of your albums and demos, but in 2014 you did an album. It was The Stellar Exorcism.
Yeah. Okay.
Could you talk to me about between, like, you did that album, and then there was kind of like some gap time, and then you did like the Denizen thing after that, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
and
it was,
you have newer stuff too, which I'd like to play some of the newer tracks.
Please.
So
Jim Rowe, my God.
Yeah, so maybe we'll play that now, just for everybody,
Whatever you want to do, it's your show.
Yeah, check this out. I mean, this is the new stuff, basically. I see this was posted about a week ago.
Oh, Saffron Harlot of the Night Side.
That's right. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, that's the song.
Perfidian venom of these sentinel vengeance. Press those who die, also worms of children. Cult of the black state, sanguinary abomination. Seven brothers harlot, your wasty backs, and mine the old ones of our dead ways.
There you have it from Neanderthal Studios.
Yeah, it's what Jimmy calls it.
So Jim Rowe from, the old, like Jim has a nice pedigree. He played on early Incantation, Onward to Golgotha, Disciples of Mockery, Womb. I think he played in Speed, Thrash, Kill. He played in goddamn Meatloaf. Obviously, he played on that stuff right there.
Yes, he did. Yeah, I hired him to do it. Yeah.
You guys have been working on a couple songs I've heard over time. And at first, one of the first couple songs I heard from you, I had thought to myself, oh, yeah, it's like it sounds like Necrophagia. I was like, oh, sick, I love this. And then now I heard this newer song, too, and I wasn't really thinking that. I was like, okay, this is still so sick. It doesn't sound like Necrophagia. You know what I mean? It's like...
It's not supposed
to. I mean? That's cool. And then the coolest thing is that you put that vocal in there, which is like the high old 1983 Slayer scream, basically. And I think that's been missing from a lot of metal albums because people think like, you know what I mean, like this high scream, it's not going to fit, sing low and this and that. So I mean, could you talk to me a little bit about that song?
Saffron Hollow.
Some of the new songs and some of your new songs, like what you got going on, brother?
Well, as you know, everything I've done when it came to Bloodstorm is occult related. All of it is. That's my platform. That's what I love. That's the most interest I have. I think there's so much rich information, undiscovered science, and mystique about it, and just the possibilities are endless when it comes to writing about that subject matter and how it affects, at least how it affected me my whole life and what I think of it. So it's the ultimate platform for me to write in magically. So okay, I've been doing all those type of albums based on a lot of the Typhonian trilogies and some things of that nature, the Silver Magic and the Ostrom Argentum, a lot of those kind of topics, the coup and all that, Kenneth Grant's work. It's all those occult things, but this more specifically, I said I want to make it a lot more something that was based more on a legendary like folklore that had a kind of like really kind of flew under the radar of what most popular folklore things are written about, and I picked the Penguin Allen, which is it's a southeast Pacific folklore legend about a female demonic vampire.
Is that the one that flies with its entrails hanging out?
Yes, that one? Yes, it's what it's based off of. Yeah, Polynesian, Malaysian, Philippine, folklore, and her head detaches from her body at night and search for women that are in a menstruating cycle, that are pregnant, or have just given birth to a newborn child. They're the vampire. They're the vampire of that folklore, and I think they're the most ruthless, vile, most horrific, and very very
and here's an example.
Yeah, supposedly a beautiful woman by day, and then at night the head detaches from the body and search for its victims.
Shout out to Ty Poster Bliss for that one. I had that actually.
And I always thought that was one of the most just kind of like fly under the radar folklore tales.
Yeah. Well, I like that movie. It's called Mystics in Bali. You know that one?
No, I've seen the posters, but I was influenced.
Check that out.
I know, and I want to see that stuff.
It's basically based exactly on that flying head and the menstrual blood and all that. So
Allen,
Yeah, it's a
The
very
Penguin Allen. It's
interesting
a Polynesian female vampire. What the folklore legend has it is supposedly a woman that was in the witchcraft breaks its pact with a demon, not supposed to eat meat. I think for 30 or 40 days it is, where she's got to be in this fasting ritual. It's a part of the pact. And apparently when the woman breaks the pact with this demon, it curses them, and that's what it does to them. It turns them into this really horror, just very,
let's just show it again.
It's an hellacious
and value.
Yeah.
And it flies around, and it like
at nighttime. Yep.
Yeah.
It's such, and I found that I wanted a topic that it seemed like nobody was touching on and nobody written about. And I was like, no, I love my occult. And this is just, yes, it's in the occult field, but it's not on the same base of things that I've worked in lyrically for the time. But I like the whole idea of it because it's a very empty and loathsome sort of existence. And I just think the
and who's the witch? Is the witch the Liak or whatever? The witch is like the Liak or whatever, right?
They have different names for it depending on the country. From what I understand, they have they call it different. They call it different things according to the country. But I always know it as the Penguin Allen. I just found that a fascinating folklore legend. And nobody seems to touch on that. There's no real good Hollywood. I always thought when it comes to vampires, I don't want that frilly BS, garbage, lovey-dovey stuff. That shit's so weak. Vampires became non-threatening. After Salem's Lot? Vampires haven't become threatening no more.
Yeah, Salem's Lot was pretty threatening, but then
and all the teenage girls want a vampire boyfriend, and they want to cuddle with them, and all this other BS. And even werewolves became weak. So I'm like, all these really cool, they're supposed to be very dark and very vile and, grotesque folklore and legend. It's like, I call it Americanization. They'd make it into some fluffy, stupid, pretend pop star, just BS. Right. You might as well put this shit on Cartoon Network anymore. There's no luster of there's no danger left. No element.
Scared.
Fear, anger, and aggression, and the fear, love, and hate. Those three potent things that make a soul just kind of, ignite. It's gone. But something like this, it flew under the radar for so long. I was like, I just want to make an album based on just about that.
The whole album is based on that. The whole album is based
on just different phases of what one of these women that fall victim to this curse would be like, what it must feel like. What would it, how can I imagine what the hell that would do to me? How would I feel if it was like that? How would that kind of emptiness feel, or that such horrid desolation in your life you have to deal with, and the emotional content. I'm trying to make it more in the simplistic terms, more kind of street level, kind of thrash and heavy metal element to go lyrically with more kind of just, bam, there it is, you lay it out and boom. Make it more on the raw of those kind of things. High energy with raw power, I think, is really a key element. And I want to always hold that in the core of my being when I do musically. And I'm like, it's time to do that. I think I've proven enough when it comes to doing occult things. I think I just kind of proven enough to myself. Yes, I could do that, and I can write this way. I want to write something that's more like this. It's in that field, but it has to be. You have to have those. You have to have those things still within the family, the formula of aggressive heavy metal, be it black metal, death metal, speed, whatever you're calling it. But the aggressive stages, the things that are most potent about heavy metal, still need to be in there for me. And I think I'm doing that in just this way. I'm trying to represent it in this way, and I'm just trying to make it represent in this way. So I want to make things more just. Like, again, raw power.
I would say just as far as the music, it's super high energy. I mean, the vocals are ridiculous.
I get that vocal influence. I credit that to my love of Nasty Savage. I love that. I love those albums so much. I love them so much. And it's just them and Conceptual. It's Voivod. It's just, that and the Celtic Frost and Venom and all that.
All paths lead back to Voivod on this podcast. Everyone knows that. So for some reason,
and Motorhead and Venom for me.
It's either all paths lead to John Hand or all paths lead to Voivod. That's our motto.
And I love bands like I've been listening to so much more of Iron Angel and Living Death, like those kind of bands too. Like we said earlier, you kind of circulate things,
Yeah.
I don't listen to Susie Quattro around the clock 7 days a week. I love the woman, of course, I love her music and everything, but I love my Necrophagia and my Venom, and just as potent as that too. I mean, I have a whole house of music for me. I ain't just in one room. I'm in a whole house, a whole building of music. That's my, it's the platform, and that's just what I work on. I do what comes out of me at the time. I think overthinking things does more damage than it does good. I think you should do things how you think and feel at that moment, and you do it that way. That's your stamp, because that's representing what's inside of you, and that's the good thing. I personally think if you overthink things too much, you'll lose so much of your power, aggression, and energy. You lose the real core, which makes the things such an igniter of influence on other people. Overthinking is I think it's a death knell when you overthink things. I like Bruce Lee's line: "Simplicity is brilliance," and the man's right. Simplicity is brilliance. I'll take 50 Hellhammer copies over 5 Yngwie Malmsteens or Dragon Force or whatever, the video game virtuoso. Right. Those guys, it's all gold medal Olympic guitar, this and that. Listen, I'm good at what I can do, and that's it. I'm no virtuoso guy, but I like what I do at the level that I do it at, and period. And people are either going to like it or not. You can't. I think the more that you try to impress her, the more that you try to put that shit on your sandwich and try to get people to eat it, the more unappealing it is. It tastes like shit.
You know what? You got the powerhouse behind you, though. You got a power plant now, which is like, this is the first time. I mean, I'm not going to say this to discredit any of your other drummers, but basically, this is the first time I really heard Bloodstorm really with like the power station behind him. Like,
I needed that. Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy's got that touch. Jim is... I always thought Jim had a cornerstone sound in death metal music, Jim's drum style, because Jim's got a very good background in music. Right. I think he does. I think a person's good telltale. They could do multiple things in multiple bands in different ways, but their influence is always there. It's a stamp. It's a stamp of their soul in everything that they do. And that makes a person a good artist, a good musician, a writer, or, an artist like Drew Elliott. Like I said, and it's true. The music for Goreaphobia started with me. I mean, lyrically, I was so influenced by Pete Steele with Carnivore, and from Killjoy from Necrophagia were probably two of my biggest, and Voivod. That was those at the start of Goreaphobia. I liked all that. That was my thing. But image-wise, I'm a guy that likes imagery to go with sound. And the whole atmosphere plays a part of it. It's all got to count. It's all got to be a big part of it, right? I mean, what would Iron Maiden be without Eddie, to a point? There's things that go along with things that kind of make a character.
The beast.
Yes, I thought for me, Drew's artwork went with a lot of the bands that I liked demo-wise when I was writing lyrics. Before I even made Goreaphobia, I'd sit in my room and write lyrics. A lot of those bands on New Renaissance I was listening to, and I would look at his artwork. I would look at artwork like most people. It's like, you keep the artwork in front of you, you listen to the music, you're surrounded by the things that you love. Okay, what comes out of you? And then you just start writing. And that's what I do. So Drew was a visually a cornerstone for influential writing.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just happened to be talking to Drew today, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? Me and you should get on sometime." And then I was thinking, like, me and you kind of set this up quickly, and then I just said, "You know what? Let me invite Drew on, because he seems like you and him have connections." And obviously, you obviously said too that he influenced you more than I even knew.
Yeah,
cool. He influenced me, like I said, like those comp records. I know he did the art, so like I was looking at the art, but the labels that they came out on, New Renaissance, it's like I had to buy that probably because I looked at the cover because it said thrash or something, or speed metal or something. So like, you know, I brought that record home. It's a new Renaissance. I don't even know who drew the cover. I'm just like, all right, this looks kind of crazy. And then it's like there was goddamn addresses with the bands, and I'm like, I could write to the band, dude. Like Iron Maiden didn't have an address on the record, so like, I mean, Kiss kind of felt like it did with the fan club thing. You know what I mean? And I tried to join the fan club when I was young. You know what I mean? Probably when I was like 7, dude. You know, I was like, I wanted to be in the Kiss fan club because
I was in the Iron Gang.
Okay, yeah. So like, you know, you understand, like there's a certain impact. Yeah, there's a certain impact of like being in some kind of connection with the bands. So like those comps that came out, like Satan's Revenge. It was just like, I think the first band I ever wrote to was Necrophagia because they had the most brutal song on the album. And then the guy's address was on the back cover, dude. Yeah. So I was like, I think I'm going to send them a letter and see if I could, you know, like, hi, how's it going? Like, do you have any other music? Because like, I didn't know anything about them except just that song at that time. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was only as time came and more fanzines started to pass by my hands that you start to learn like the folklores and the legend of, it's like, they're from Texas.
Right. You're getting some history.
Not that I didn't know they were from Texas, but it was like, that's all I knew. They're from Texas.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes there's no photo. History. Yeah. There's no photo of the band. Like I have like Scream Bloody Gore on tape. And like when you look inside, there's nothing. It's just a white back. So like I didn't even know the existence of like Evil Chuck. I didn't know the existence of John Hand. You know what I mean? Because like, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't know of them because there was no info. There was no lineup, no liner note, no thank you list, nothing. Just here's your tape, here's your music. Listen to it. Fuck you. But you know, and it was when you listened to it, you were just like, you didn't even need anything else. You didn't care who was in the band, dude. Yeah. But then, you know, you kind of went on that like, you know, scouting mission, I used to call it, you know, where you would scout about and you would look and try to collect up like, oh, what's this? Oh, an article in a Metal Forces. Like it's only a paragraph long. Gotta get us. Yeah. You know, and then it's just like,
but it's stuck with you.
Here's an underground fanzine where like with more addresses in it, you know, like I'm gonna hit these bands up. I really don't know what they sound like, you know. Your daughter's not interfering in anything, brother.
Cool. Okay, just making sure.
You're fine. It's understandable. I grew up, you know, doing necroharmonic right here with my daughter literally running next to me, trying to tape boxes together because she saw me taping boxes, and you know what I mean.
She wants to know what I'm doing.
I'm used to it, you know. Well, she wants to come online. She's a star. She wants to be a star too. So, you know, you gotta, you know, once you reach the point, you can say, okay, you know, here's your YouTube channel, and here's your little studio room we built in the house for you. You know,
they kind of know what I do a little bit because they see my guitar out a lot. Yeah, and they know I have a YouTube channel, especially my older daughter. She does that and stuff like that. But I just don't force that stuff. I just let it be there.
No, I don't either. My kids know what I'm doing, but they don't care.
I'll let them figure it out. So,
yeah, pretty much.
But don't have all my books.
It was awesome to play the new stuff, bro. I appreciate you letting us play that, dude.
Absolutely, play it all. I listen. Anybody out there, please feel free. Check it out, please. I mean, you know, I'm an independent guy. I make music because I love to make it.
People were asking what's in the future, basically, you know.
Well, I'm doing this. You know, I got Jim to help me. Luckily enough, the other guys, like you know, they time goes, things change for other people. Their personal lives change and other things change. So therefore, you part ways, not in a bad way.
Well, you're doing like a studio band right now for the moment, and you're just making songs. You're just making songs, basically, right?
Yeah, that's right. Where you're at. I want to write and record. It's important. That is more important to me. You know, that I have that platform. If anything, I have that because my situation right now. That's really all I can do right now. You know, I'm raising my daughters, and that's just the way it is. You know, I wanted to be a father when I was in Goreaphobia. I always there's going to be one day I want to be a dad. I want it because it's just in me. I like, I don't know, I like it, so
Yeah.
I was, just that's the situation. And, you can't control everybody else's turn of events, but life goes on. But what's inside of me is always music. It's the best expression I got. It keeps the core of me grounded. It lets me be connected to people that I want to be connected to. And I can just share and enjoy, whether, I'll take the good and the bad with it. It's just experience.
You get to go to Jim Rowe's friggin' studio, and then you get to look at GTOs and like all the important stuff in life. You know what I mean? Maybe go in his backyard and have a little barbecue or something. You know what I mean? I know how it is at Jim's house.
Grab some stuff right out of the garden and chew on it.
Yeah, I asked Jim to come on a few times. He's not super into
he's laid back.
Yeah, he's not super into being on camera. I don't think he has like a flip phone, so
Yeah, I'm a social butterfly.
He can't. I mean, that's kind of why I'm doing this too, because what do you call it? I talk a lot anyway. Oh, she's so cute. I talk a lot anyway, so like I felt like this would be an easy thing for me to do, basically. So I was like, oh, this, and then after I started to do it a little more and more and more, it's just like, and a lot of people were kind of telling me, they're like, a lot of weird stuff, dude, and I'm just like, yeah, I do, I'm gonna go and tell people about it, you know what I mean? Tell them. So we're gonna cut this pretty close. We've been on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I didn't give you the full grilling on every record. Maybe that's
I'll just say this
down
then,
into some other stuff.
Yeah. Check the YouTube channel out, everybody, please, and thanks again.
What is it again? What is the full name of the YouTube channel? It's
Bloodstorm Cult. I think it's Bloodstorm Cult Official. You can see, if you see a big red eye, that's my channel.
Hold on a second. You might be able to throw it up here.
Yeah, you can. My friend Megan Gowdy started that up for me.
Cool.
So yeah, she's great. She transferred some of the video work and some of the songs, and then I picked it up over the pandemic. I had to find something to do with my in between time, with the kids. So I was kind of learning how to do that and portray some imagery with songs. But yeah, I'm making at least one more song, if not maybe two, but at least one more song, and I'll have a full length. And I don't know if anybody will pick it up and want to put it out themselves. I'm planning on doing it on my own. Everything's out of my own pocket. I hired Jim. He's a hired gun. I pay for the studio time as I go along, and I hired him to do it. He's been great about it, and he's super. He's super representation on drums for me, because Jim could do everything I always wanted on drums with those kind of songs. And doing Dennis
and a cool
Sin,
place to record it too.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. He knows what he's doing. So
this is the channel too. The
Yes.
Bloodstorm Official Web Cult YouTube.
Yes,
channel.
Thank you. I don't even know.
So
my
if
damn
anybody
YouTube.
wants to subscribe to it, well, I'm like that too, man. Whatever.
I know.
We're flying by the seat of our pants. That's how metal is sometimes. Yeah, sometimes metal is like that.
Just do it, and it is
and
what it is.
Shout out to Megan, because I see her up in my Instagram. Shout out to Megan. Shout out to anyone that popped into the chat tonight. Francisco, Petra from Singapore. Yep. And then Andrew, Maniac, Matt Chapman, Vincent, the Embalmer.
Oh, cool.
Carl from Hod. What's up?
Okay, cool. Hey, man.
Raining on your parade. Shanna Capri Vasquez. What's up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what's up to everybody? Appreciate you supporting Death Metal Podcast. I think me and Chris can get on and talk almost individually about each Bloodstorm record, but tonight we just glazed over things, talked about some metal, and I guess maybe to change the tune one more time, I'm going to let us go out with Chris's other band, which is Den of Sin.
Real quick.
They're not... Go ahead.
We're not done with that yet. That's still the possibility that might pick up again in the future. It all depends on everybody else's schedule, but I never say never to that, because I love that. But I just like to be the guitar player and let a good, strong woman powerhouse be the front. I want her to be the Bon Scott of that. Not me.
You've always.
I want to be Malcolm Young.
I'll say it again. You always champion, like, you like women singing. You're definitely
to a degree.
Into that.
Not all of them are good.
Right. Understandable.
Not all of them are good. And if somebody thinks that they're hot, that isn't a seller for being good music. I'm sorry.
I hear you, bro. It's
you gotta have quality.
The music has to be good, obviously. You
It has to complement each other. Otherwise, it's not. It's no better.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone that watches this is going to worry about the force-fed media stuff. Like we listen to good music.
You either like it or you don't. It's nothing you can do.
Exactly. So even though this is a death metal podcast, we're going to leave you with Den of Sin, which is another band that Chris does. It's a female-fronted vocal, and I think Jim Rowe plays on this one too.
Lily LeBold's her name.
Cool. So check it out, and I appreciate everyone who tuned in to Death Metal Podcast. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, all that, like all the regular plug crap. So check this out. Thanks, Chris, for talking tonight. Boy.
Thanks all the time, man. So many years. Thank you for the kind of person you are. Not just a fan, but just as the person as you've been. Grateful for that, dude. Man. It's great memories that go past this earth. Thanks,
yeah,
bud.
And I'm here to help promote bands and talk to friends too. So
family too.
It's fun.
We're just doing good.
Yeah, everyone's well. All right, brother. So we're gonna go out with this, everybody. I appreciate everybody for tuning in.
Syrian salutes.
Let people know about the channel if you could. If they're a friend of yours and they seem like they would like to talk about death metal or thrash or something or this. Later.
Pass it around.